Yep. But let's do it together.
Okay, well, you be the main guy and I'll jump in.
Excellent.
And turn on the garbage disposal. I'll just jump in every. Go ahead.
Welcome, guys. Nice week. I don't know how the weather is in your part of the world there, but it's very, very early here. It's 5 a.m. But, it's kind of announcing itself to be a nice day. We're going to see. Joe,
yes.
How do you feel? What do you expect?
I'm feeling good. I'm really excited about this evening's session, and it's great to see everybody here this evening. It's the weather's actually quite nice here as well. So I'm really looking forward to talking about how there aren't any straight lines. So Anne, how are you doing? What would you like to get out of today? It's nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's great to see everybody. Yes, I'm today. I feel perfectly at the top of the world right now, so it's great that the holidays are here, and so just taking a bit of a chill time. Fewer meetings. School's not running. Have so many urgent things that just pop up. Yep. And looking forward to today. Over to Henry. Henry, how do you feel and what do you expect out today?
Thank you, Anne. Feeling good. Looking forward to the call. Yeah, just expecting to learn and grow. What one of the things I'd like to do is we just a thought with Kelly. One of the things we did a lot and is getting feedback from people. The market always tells you how you're doing. And it comes back to numbers. We talk about numbers as a lagging thing. So numbers, and what you've got to do in your calls and everything you do is create value. If you create value, there's a reason for people to come back. If you don't, people won't. Just a thought. Keep that in mind. So, because that's why we've timed how we run our sessions, and we run them tight. We run them correct in terms of making sure that it does achieve the end result. So always conscious of that. And that's why we spend a lot of energy on facilitation and understanding how that works. Be apprehensive, be comprehensive about how that works and the space that you're creating. And if you can get that flow, it'll create more mass, because I think Rafa said, oh, it'd be great to have, tons of people coming along and doing this. It can happen, but you always be conscious of how it affects the others. That's what I've got to say. But I'd expect to get a good call and for these to grow. Julian, how do you feel and what do you want to get out of today's call?
Thank you, Henry. Hello. Hope you're doing well over there. Here it's late at night. So instead of being early in the morning, here is 10 p.m. So I'm feeling actually animated to be able to talk today about all of other things that came up via email. Like, it was amazing. Thank you, Steve, for all that explanation. I was just reading over here the PDF that you sent earlier today, and it is amazing. A lot of things that I have to learn. So I'm expecting that I can gather all of these ideas and try to get some new knowledge. So that's what I'm expecting today. I'm thinking Peter hasn't.
Thanks, Julian.
No, right?
I'm feeling pretty good.
So Peter, how do you feel and what do you expect from today?
Thanks, man. I'm feeling pretty good. Kat sends her love. She's going to be having a nap because she's been rather extraordinarily busy for the last 2 or 3 months, and it's caught up with her. But I'm looking forward to the ongoing what's the word I'm looking for? Exploration. I think there's I can't recall when we haven't had a juicy conversation on this call, so I'm expecting another juicy call one way or another, and that's a good thing. Kelly, are you actually there? Because you seem to have popped in and out 2 or 3 times. Kelly, how do you feel, and what are you hoping to get out of today?
He's not unmuted. I'm going to ask him to unmute. And I keep clicking the button to ask him. So I'm not sure if he's here.
Okay. I'm not quite sure. Manu, in the interim, do you want to say how you feel and what you're hoping to get out of today?
Manu's kind of doing the call, so it would be Joseph or
Joseph.
Anne is
Sorry,
still Anne.
Yeah, done. I've done it. I've done it.
Steve
Okay.
is the last one, I think.
so is it just me?
just you.
Yes.
Yes.
Stephen, how do you feel and what are you hoping to get out of today, mate?
Well, I just really feel grateful for Julian because he sent the little diagrams of the two-dimensional polyhedra and showed how the lines connect. And I've got it sparked. There's a bunch of great videos on math and those lines and the polyhedra. They're two-dimensional and they really got me thinking. And then Julian was persistent, asking a question, then another question. So that was inspiring to me. So I threw out some really good opinions, but they're my opinions, Julian. Don't think that you're required to believe anything I said, dude. I don't, because I don't know anything, right? It's when in one of the answers, I said that as soon as I think I know something, I immediately have apprehension that there's obviously something I'm missing, because if I'm clear about anything, I realize I'm just tricking myself. So I think confusion is the highest state of human consciousness. As long as I'm confused, I'm open for new stuff. And so I've really been opening for new stuff here. Everything seems to be working fine. And here comes Kelly one more time. Let's see if we can get him in.
No, and let me say, Steve, that it was amazing that you kind of took different concepts and different words from our vocabulary to extend our knowledge. So it's really amazing. I am amazed, and I want to dig deeper into each thing. I think we have Kelly.
We do have Kelly, and now I just say that if it weren't for Kelly, I would have no concept of what's doing this thing, because he has been badgering me. You know, I attend these calls and I get badgered with this concept, and I'm constantly opening my eyes. And I think I kind of see some of that stuff, but even as I was going through it today, Julian, I realized that Kelly has this perspective on it. He's always trying to make it work in business, you know, and I think that is the ultimate application of all that, of the geometry of thought. And I think that's very profound. So, you know, I'm going to take off my hat to Kelly. Kelly, it's your turn. I just finished and I was the last guy here. So how you feeling, Kelly? What you want to get out of today? Thanks for your persistence on getting into the call.
I tell you, I was muted on everything, and I just don't understand it. But anyway, how do I feel? I'm feeling okay, but not really that good. So I'm going to persevere and just carry on the way I've been carrying on. In terms of the call and business, I really think that there's only two aspects that you can look at. You can look at a social being and an economic being. And it seems to me that a social being is really much harder than an economic being, because economics is so easy. you know, when you look at it, there's just simple rules and they're easy to follow. But being a social being is not easy to follow. You know, there's so many forks in the road and so much turmoil that it's really very hard. And as best as I can, I've tried to come up with a social being. And I haven't been able to do it really. The economic being is deadly easy. So, you know, that's how I feel, and that's what I take away. Over to you, Manu.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. The way I feel this good is quite encouraged for basically three things. You know, my brother is has been the same, a similar predicament to Kelly's, and the news is that he's improving. He was able to send us a video from where he is, and that was very, very encouraging. There is Kelly here, you know, kind of putting a lot of effort, trying to follow up and support, even at times when, you know, he should be in bed. And the third is the feedback. The feedback should always be perceived as a friend. And the friend allows you to realign, to adjust. And I've been doing that with Kelly, with Steve this week. And we're going to see what we get. I realize that Henry has been also, you know, part of that team. That's quite cool and good. So what we are suggesting and decided is basically to get to the fundamentals. And let's not forget that the whole stuff that we're trying to do is to be comprehensivist, to do things with a capacity and the capability to capture as much as relevant data as possible and still make decisions that are effective into steering our trajectory to the goals and to the objectives that we far from. So that's in my view how we want to do it and where we want to go. So in so doing, then we chose the text for this word. We decided that we will start again with getting back to the source, to words of Bucky, and then from there, you know, draw to achieve whatever we can achieve during this meeting. So let's start in earnest with that. Steve, do you want to share or should I share the text?
I got it ready to go.
Okay, come on. Right. And may you read, please?
Sure. Okay. Sure. Thank you. 362.00. Our original definition of universe is a finite but non-simultaneously occurring aggregate of all.
I'm so sorry. And one more try. Hang on. I'm going to try and get this down. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, where am I? Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Which is therefore a non-conceptual total universe. It is logical to proceed from this definition to discover the patterning characteristics of the first conceptual subdivision of universe into a structural system. After we subdivide universe into systems, we will make further reductions into basic event experiences and to quantum units. We will then come to the realization that all structuring can be identified in terms of tetrahedra and of topology.
Good.
See,
Yeah, please just pause. A big chunk.
This is a big chunk.
Yes.
Questions and comments.
Yeah, let's unpack this.
Sorry, I was talking. So we're subdividing the universe into systems. and we're reducing it to something that can be, kind of quantified. What are those subsystems? Are they the example that Kelly was talking about a little bit earlier, kind of like, in a sense, economic systems, and you have human being systems, and then you have all these other aspects of reality that we would kind of be, is that how we're chunking it up, or is it being done in some mathematical way? Something that's a little bit more geometric.
Well, you made a statement there that was quite profound, because we are chunking up in the systems. And I think you're absolutely correct that, like Kelly likes to talk about the business system. And tonight in his intro, he talked about the social system, right?
Right.
And we've been talking about environment systems, right? What other kind of systems have we been talking about on this call? Anne talks about her educational system. She talks about how the school system where she comes from has never had a mission statement for kids, never identified a value proposition for kids. And that's what she's done, is she's subdivided the universe into her system, and she's making further reductions into basic event experiences for each student, right? And yeah, what?
I like what you just said.
Well, Bucky said it right there. And a lot of times, we're conceptualizing, and I love the fact that we're breaking it down. What does that mean? What other systems can we be talking about?
I think one of the things that is to this text fundamental to me is the first few words, and it encompasses what we've been talking about in terms of social beings or social environment. You say our original definition of universe is a finite but non-simultaneously occurring aggregates of all human experiences. What are human experiences? They are first and foremost social.
Yeah, the aberration really is business.
Now,
Yeah.
an aberration
Well-
to me, Kelly, is a surprise.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So when you're looking at it, you're saying, well, with 5,000 years of business, it's created an aberration in the absolute fabric of technology. When you look at it and you say, well, we're a social being to start with, and would we be more susceptible to giving away things and sharing things like the older, like the Aboriginals of Australia, where they believe that they belong to the land. The land is not theirs. And when you take on board the idea that the land, and now you've got this subdivision called legal system and real estate. And when you think about that, that was the start of the change, because we started to revalue things and get into that. And so in my mind, the real problem that we have is we've lost our social being.
It also means the universe has always been there.
Yes.
We didn't invent the universe. We are experiencing in the universe. It's always been there.
And we kind of divide it up in order to control it. It happened, it would happen with Western philosophy because the church was so dominant during the Renaissance, during the Dark Ages, that the only way the Renaissance happened was Rene Descartes comes up with the idea, okay, we're going to separate spirituality from physicality, which had never been done before, so that we can talk about the physical experience without being burned at the stake. And so he says he separated consciousness and spirit over here and said, okay, we're going to take a look at the human, the science of the human experience. What can we experiment on? And the Cartesian method, the scientific method developed so that they could do what they had to do without getting in trouble with the church.
But that is the essence, Steve. We divide to understand. In the process of trying to understand is a technique. Dividing is not the original fundamental.
However,
yes, it is in us being in the universe and perceiving only part of the universe and experiencing that. So there is the me and the otherness. That division occur. It is in the process of understanding how universe works.
Well, it's the process of understanding the aggregate of human experience. I think that's what you're saying, Manu.
Yes.
And so, and my point was that like Kelly's point was that the Aboriginal people, your people in Africa, the Aborigines in Australia, the Native Americans here in America, they felt they were one with the land. They were part of the system, and everything was sacred. And they realized that if they didn't respect the land, they were not respecting themselves. You don't cook peas and pea in the same pot, right? Because if you do, you screw up the peas.
I agree with you, Steve, but that wasn't like that from their beginning. In their beginning, they were apprehensive. They divided. And then they just appear to have been more advanced than we are in becoming more comprehensive with time. They have reached those conclusions, and probably they're laughing at us. You get what I'm trying to say? The world, the environment, the universe makes more sense to them than it makes to us.
Absolutely.
In a sense,
Right.
they're a lot more advanced. But make no mistake, they have gone through that process.
Have they?
Yes,
So
they have gone through process of learning. They have gone through the process of understanding.
I think though, go ahead, Joe, or Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're talking about division, subdivision, it's how you subdivide the universe. And one of the things that Bucky talks about is cosmic accounting. And his cosmic accounting is related to nature, universe, abundance, whereas the economic being is based on a different accounting system, a financial system based on scarcity, on limitations of land and quantities. So it's different accounting systems, as it were, cosmic accounting or
I agree.
Responsibilities.
Right.
Well, the very essence of the accounting system as an economic accounting system is scarcity.
Yes.
So if it's not made scarce, then you can't drive its value. So you hear quite often in the background, you hear politicians and that talking about, we'll do this, but we've got to hold this. You know, we could pay you more, except for we've got this going on. And there's always that play. And the way I see it is that they're really not looking at saying what it is that they that the scarcity to abundance, like if you're of the land, you're abundant. And when you think about it, the Aboriginals and all of that, they just rolled with the punches. Like if with this climate warming and all the rest of it, they would roll with the punches.
Yeah, they'd follow the buffalo, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so,
Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, and this might be, and just, disregard if it's I'm a little bit off here. But this is, helpful for me. And we've talked about cosmetic accounting in the past. I look at this in kind of like almost a spontaneous order in nature. Is that a good way of looking at this? So, okay, so if I look at this spontaneous order, there's a couple of ways of looking at this. If you make it solely about economics, then you're only taking one part of a subdivided universe and you're making that the whole, as opposed to making the whole the biological environment itself and understanding everything around it. So these things are self-organizing, but when we value something specific, like only economics, then in that particular instance, we kind of, we lose our comprehensivity. We're no longer comprehensive. We're actually just focused on one very small part of, which creates the scarcity. Is that?
Yes. In fact, if we do just what you said, if we don't consider a system within its environment,
Right.
we soon start looking at the cat in the box. The
Right.
cat in the box is not a cat, right? The cat in the box is either dead or alive, according to Schrodinger, right?
Right.
But that's not a real cat. So this is where subdivision can be bad. Subdivision is good for learning, like Manu was saying. It's important to subdivide and learn, but we want to do the subdivision within the context of, like you said, comprehensivity, right? Comprehensivity, is that the word?
Right. And self in the environment.
That's right. So we don't just look at the cat in the box. We look at the cat in the field. We look at the cat in the house, right?
Right. Okay.
And so this yellow state, go ahead.
Yeah, you finish first. Go ahead.
No, you please go ahead. I talk too much.
Okay. I was looking at the whole idea of this subdivision of land and with economics coming in, but I'm also looking at class 1 evolution. Would that also mean that we as humans, as animals, we are territorial by nature? Animals are territorial, right? So that's where it comes from. So that because I think we need to take that into consideration as well. So from there, wouldn't it be about getting people to think in a more, okay, I'm seeing if I'm using the word correctly, yeah, in a more expansive manner, because when the animal instincts kick in, which is very territorial, then is it expansion? And we have to teach to get people to come together and think in an expensive manner. Would that?
Yeah. One
No,
would
it's more than that.
You're talking
Yes.
about tribal versus global, right? Tribal is everybody subdivides into little groups, and global is everybody considers themselves in a large community. Go ahead, Manu.
I was just going to say, we're talking here about a method of understanding, of accounting comprehensively. And that method is this one. The technique is that you always divide in order to understand, because we can only at one point, at one time, see a certain phase. But don't neglect what we call pollution. What is left that goes around that come back.
Right.
So it is learning to use the back burner and to rotate necessarily when is required in order to have a whole view. So we always in a phase, but being in a phase shouldn't shouldn't induce us or make us completely forget that there are other phases and that there are other things in all spherical directions. That's one. And secondly, we should, from the beginning, as we're thinking, realize and take that into consideration, or open the possibility and create the space for it. That's, to me, what I call progressively comprehensive. The other point that I brought here, that I thought here in this text, is a non-conceptual. Universe is real. It is our experiences, and we are in that. We are experiencing that from within. It's not some concept. We are part of it. We are in it. We in flesh and blood into that universe.
Any other comments, questions?
Okay. In that case, let's.
Well,
Yeah.
I
wanted
have more on this. Go ahead. Who? What?
Was it Julian?
Yeah, I wanted to add another point, if possible. When I was reading about the finite and non-simultaneously aggregate of all human experiences, I was thinking that the past, things that have other humans experienced in the past, are also part of our universe. Like, there's fragments of them, pieces of paper or written somewhere, or and all of that makes also part of that experiences. Or are we thinking only in the present, like what do we have right now?
The answer to that, Julian, is that our experience of universe is cyclical. The universe always been there. It's doing its thing. Our experience of it is cyclical. In other words, you know, there has been a cold before. And let's just take, to fix that clearly, the experience of today. And if you take, for example, what's called climate change, whether you're in South America, I'm in Africa, somebody's in Asia, we are all experiencing that at different phases. There's lag, there is, but we're experiencing it, okay? So it is something that is universal to us in our biosphere. So it's a concern to us. It can be a concern of Africa, or an exclusive concern of Americas, or an exclusive concern on Asia. We've got to be conscientious or conscientious of what is going on.
I think another aspect, Julian, is down here later, because we're going to talk about environment. And the clue here is on the first line. Our original definition of universe is a finite but non-simultaneously occurring aggregate of all human experience. So you're having a finite experience, I'm having a finite experience, but you're having yours at a different time than I am. We're going to talk about awareness and consciousness. And so it looks like an infinite universe, but that's only because of lag and the way my brain works. He points out that it's a finite but non-simultaneously occurring aggregate of all human experience, which therefore is non-conceptual. And this is a really important point, because down below here, he uses the word topology. Do you know what topology is?
Explain, Steve.
What's that?
Explain.
Topology is map making. So he's saying that the human experience, it's like a freaking map. It's a physical thing, and you can analyze human experience topographically, topologically, because of the way it works with space. And he says it in two things. We're going to identify it in terms of tetrahedra and topology.
Okay.
So we're going from conceptual to some kind of non-conceptual total universe. And one other thing hit me as I read this. And this is something, Julian, I wouldn't have come to this without you. I love you, dude. You just have the guts to keep asking the questions. And I kept reaching down in. The tetrahedron is a fractal.
Right.
Human experience is fractal. The universe is fractal. It's just reoccurring phenomena that we're aggregating. I'm just so excited about this topology.
Right.
But before that, Steve, there's one,
Okay,
number
thank
3
you.
there. The quantum unit.
Yeah,
The further reduction in quantum unit.
right
What
on.
does quantum unit imply?
That is the
Imply
tetrahedron.
calibration.
Implied
And we've been
calibration.
using- Yes, and we've been using this word over and over.
Right on.
We reduce it to something that we can calibrate, meaning that we can count with it as a reference, and it come up many times being the same thing. That is the concept of calibration. So we reduce it to a quantum unit of accounting. That is still in our discretization effort to understand the universe in which we live. We've been dividing, and trying to relate and interrelate. But to do that, we need to have our senses measuring it, quantifying it.
Are you complete? Comments
Yep.
or questions?
I'll just go back a little bit to Julian's thing. He asked about whether it was the past timing. And then in this statement, it does says for all human experiences. So that would include past and what's happened previously. And
Yeah.
and
And
we
like-
call it, the term we've used is a priori, what's happened before you. It's an aggregation over time, and you've been able to build on that.
And below, we're going to hear that it's past, present, and future experience.
Excellent. Let's just take the opportunity to progress here. Next,
So-
Steve, progress to next part.
Are we complete on this, guys? Here we go.
We should be.
All right.
Well, I just have one quick question, and it may be a little bit off, is instantaneity and its impact on this. So there, with that instantaneity, that wouldn't necessarily, things wouldn't be simultaneous anymore, right? So
Within, no,
Can we park that for now, please?
Okay, yeah, okay.
And then we probably get clarification that, Steve, can you show your what, like, yes, the red, just hold on there. These are Steve's comments. Anne, can you read that? For us to fix it very clear.
Okay. Ultra means more than and infra means less than. For example, ultraviolet light has a higher frequency and energy than infrared light. Oh.
Okay,
I love that.
that's fine.
I had
So
the
let's-
same reaction,
let's-
man. I had the same reaction you did when I put those together. Because Manu and I were talking, and I'm going, well, what the hell does ultra mean? And what the hell does infra mean? And I went and looked them up, and I had the same reaction you did. Because it really will point down to what goes on here. I love it. Go ahead,
Okay.
Manu.
So let's just continue then and then read further to 26401. Yeah.
Yep, 264.01. A point is a something, a complex entity system, but an infratunable system. A point occurs at the first moment of awareness of a looming intotunability of any system in universe. A point or a noise appears in an angularly determinable direction within the total omnidirectional spherical sphere of reference of the individual observer's sense-informed environment.
Let's pause
Yes.
right there.
Yeah, excellent.
That's
Because
a
that's a
Comment.
mouthful, and you said a
Comments,
mouthful.
questions?
The first point, you guys, is a point is a something. And we're going to learn more about points down below because we're going to talk about awareness. But understand a point is a something. And what is it? It's a complex entity system, but an infratunable system. What does infra mean? Infra means less than tunable.
Mm.
Comments, questions?
Yeah.
I'm going to adjust this down just a little bit more so we can see a little bit more of it. Okay. Any
Did I
other
disappear? Okay. All right.
Any other comments or questions on what we've read so far? What does it mean a point is a noise? What does that mean?
That we can tune into. It is can yet. It is fuzzy. It is what we've at some point call we call it pollution.
Is it always pollution? Because he says a point or a noise appears in an angularly determinable direction within a total omnidirectional spherical sphere of reference of the individual observer's sense-informed environment. Isn't that murmuration? Isn't that what we talked about, what birds do?
Wow.
Omnidirectional spherical sphere of reference. A bird's here, and it's the 6 birds around him that bird decides that they're going to do in these beautiful formations.
But it is infratunable, meaning that we can't divide it yet. With our senses, we cannot divide it yet.
Does everybody get that a point or a noise appears in an angularly determinable direction within a total omnidirectional sphere? I prepared a little slide on murmuration. Here's the omnidirectional, here's the bird. And this is their sensed environment. And the bird looks up, down, left, right, backwards, and forwards. Here it is. Appears in an angularly determinable direction within a total omnidirectional spherical sphere. Is this an omnidirectional spherical sphere?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's the bird. And is every one of these angularly determinable?
Yes.
Yes.
They're all at 90 degrees.
That's right.
This is very important for understanding tetrahedral point vectors, a point vector in a tetrahedron. And the 6 degrees of freedom.
So
It also means this. You remember we talk about tetrahedra. When you do a double tetrahedron and you build it in two spheres, you've got to, when you bring them together at the point of intersection, you have to take out one of the spheres and get it. So you have now unity is plural at a minimum of two. But as Susan usually say it, you needed to knock out a sphere in order to have that. You get what I'm saying, Steve?
Yeah.
Let me build it. It's
So,
easy.
Go ahead, Joe.
So
Steve, oh, go ahead, Joe.
two things. Is that, so are you talking about making a boundary within that essentially? And then one thing of the sphere that you showed, would that be the equivalent of like one system that we were talking about before within that sphere?
What is also say is that a point is a system.
Right.
A point is a system. A point, yes,
And then you could
structure.
subdivide from, then you could subdivide from there.
Where it is, there's always a point.
Right.
But for the purpose of our observation or whatever, we cannot tune into.
Okay.
It is noisy to us. Therefore, it is a point. But our experience of it will be an experience of coming in and going out.
Does everybody get what Mano just said? A point is a complex entity system, but an infratunable. In other words, less than tunable system. A point is less than tunable. A point occurs as the first moment of awareness of a looming into tunability. So we begin, awareness comes from being able to get it in tune.
We are a point first. We are a point.
Amen. I am the dot.
And actually, Steve, when you drew the murmuration, that the circle, the sphere, it also explains the rest of the statement, because can we get the statement, because it says this total omnidirectional. Can we go back to the writing there? Yes, because it does explain that the total omnidirectional spherical sphere of reference of the individual observer's sense-informed environment. So that one bird is one sphere. So that explains that individual observer sense-informed environment. That means that each one of the birds they've got spheres around them as well.
That's right.
Yes.
Each one of these birds are individual points. Each one is having a scenario experience, and they're aggregating.
Right.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
It also explains the Native American tradition of the seventh direction.
Can you explain a little bit about the 6 degrees of?
We're gonna
I would suggest
later. That's much later.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
let's be progressive. So let's continue. Anne, can you continue reading here, please?
Okay. It is oriented in respect to the observer's head to heel axis of reference, in respect to which the direction from which the somethingness of infradiscrete tunability, as well as the non-tune outability of the static, is emanating, as distinct from the nothingness of untuned in omnidirectional withinness and withoutness.
Comments, questions.
You gotta love Bucky.
Can you read again, Anne? Please read again.
Read it again.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let's break it down, Anne. So stop when you're ready to breathe. Okay, go for it.
Okay. It is oriented in respect to the observer's head to heel axis of reference, in respect to which the direction from which the somethingness of infradiscrete tunability, as well as the non-tune outability of the static, is emanating. I'm going to stop there.
I would have stopped where I stopped with the gray, because that's okay. it is oriented in respect to the observer's head to heel axis of reference. Are we seeing a head to heel axis of reference here?
Yep.
Right, you guys? Head to heel axis of reference.
Yeah, with you, because it's really easy to understand with the picture of murmuration.
And you see the axis, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And one of the things that Mano's been trying to teach me for a year is the 90 degreeness of everything.
Right.
Everything's at 90 degrees from the central point of awareness. Cool. So if we do that, head to heel reference. Now let's take the next part.
But before that,
Okay.
when you're talking about head to heel reference, what does it infer? What do you think about? And that start answering Julian's question, is position.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And then in respect to which the direction, what's that, Henry?
It also has position, is motion and direction.
No, it's going to go, we just going to want to be Henry's structure in such a way that progressively we get, because there's so much into this.
Sure.
Do you guys get what infra-discrete tunability is?
Less than discrete.
Exactly right. It's less than discrete tunability. Can't quite figure it out.
It's the almost.
It's the almost. Perfect. Joe, do you guys remember when we had those concentric spheres that we talked about with Bucky?
Tantalizing, the tantalizing macro,
Right.
tantalizing micro.
Yes. As well as the non-tune out ability static. What does that refer to?
That's the well, it would be not unknown. That would be irrelevancy.
No. Well, to me, it means the non-tune out ability of the static. It's like being punched in the nose.
Oh, non-tune out. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to ignore it, but the damn thing is punching me in the freaking nose. I can't tune it out. I wanted to.
So what does that also take us to? I suggest it takes us to apprehension.
Right.
Okay.
So you're seeing how the way we try to think is anchored into the me, into where we are. The way we try to understand is start with where we are. And I like the people who are motivating and say, start where you are. Okay, but that is just an aside.
And I love that aside.
Can someone help, with this part, the infra-discrete tunability, etc., based on this murmuration drawing?
Well, the murmuration of a bird is the comprehensivity of a bird in relationship from the point where he is locally. So if you see birds flying, the famous V is not V in the plane most of the time. There is up, excuse me the term, there is up, down, or north, how will I call it? North, south, east, west, and front end.
And Manu, I've resolved that because when Bucky's he talks about universal direction in and out, and then he talks about local direction.
Yes.
And I think that in universally, there is no down or up. It's in or
Yes.
out. Universally, there is no down and up. But when I create a local scenario, that becomes a different story.
Right.
I
Okay.
can't tell my kid to climb out the ladder. I want to tell my kid to climb up the ladder or down the ladder, right?
Okay. All
So
right.
that's a local scenario, but universally, it's in and out.
Okay.
I've resolved that in my head.
You understand that, Anne?
So-
If you
so,
don't,
yeah.
if you don't locally think spherically, you're never going to be in tune with a universe that is spherical. You're not. That's what is called part of a comprehension.
Okay, thank you.
And now one more thing. Now let's read it. Read this, what's in gray here, Anne, one more time, and see if it doesn't mean something, especially in the context as you're going to say as distinct from. So this is one yin, this is one yin, and this is going to be a yang. So read the gray stuff and make sure
Okay.
we got it.
The somethingness of infradiscrete tunability, as well as the non-tune outability of the static, is emanating.
Right on. So there's the something that is almost not discrete tunability. It's real fuzzy. But then there's the part that I can't tune out. And is emanating as as distinct from what, Anne?
As distinct from the nothingness of untuned in, omnidirectional withinness and withoutness.
Okay, so you now that what I understand here is that you are not replicating. You are having an experience locally.
Right.
You are understanding locally. Locally too, there is going to be the tunable and the untunable. So there is what you call really noise out there, which might not be your concern yet now, but you really need to understand how you are locally, where you are. Let's take an example, right? ACE education. You did ACE education with the principles that it will work, that you work for the concern everywhere on this planet Earth, where you have human beings experience, right? But in Malaysia, you really had to make it work. Okay? So you have to use the same principle in applying locally to have something that works, right? That now can actually be duplicated, can be copied. Because we are master copiers. That's the greatest gift that we have, is to see and make us the original and repeat the experience. Okay.
Okay, got it.
And,
Thank
and
you.
just as a summary here, the almost discrete tunability, the hazy, as well as the non-tune outability, static, bam, getting punched in the nose, is distinct from the nothingness of untuned in, omnidirectional withinness and withoutness. So there's a bunch of other stuff going on here on the out here and on the in, but it's untuned in, but it's omnidirectional and it's within and it's without.
Yes.
Mm.
Is it relevant? Is it relevant? Is it irrelevant?
And this to me, you guys, thanks to Julian today, it hit me clearly. This murmuration, this whole diagram, this is a fractal. Do you guys notice the what is that orange thing inside of that thing? What is that? It's distorted, but go ahead.
Tetrahedra.
It's an octahedron. It's got 4 sides. It's an octahedron. And where do octahedrons exist?
In the tetrahedron.
Inside the tetrahedron.
Yes.
An octahedron, a vertical octahedron, is implied in a double tetrahedron. The horizontal octahedron is implied in a single tetrahedron. And by the way, this hooks in, if you study the Kabbalah shows the directions as an octahedron. The Native Americans have north, south, east, and west, and up and down. That's a freaking octahedron. So it's interesting to me that Hebrew mysticism, which came out of Egyptian mysticism, by the way, and Native American mysticism is all Bucky. It's all Bucky.
Wow.
Excellent. So far we've been talking about positions and relative positions.
Let me understand a little bit about withinness and withoutness. Like, I understand that outside I can find things which I am untuned in, right?
Right.
But in the same way, inside me, I can find things which I am untuned in. Is that it?
That's what meditation is all about for me. It's tuning into that which is within me. The center of the universe is within me. And all I've got to do is tune out all of this social media and just start listening to myself, and I will know. And I believe that's true for every human being. That's what prayer is about. That's what meditation is about. It's about tuning.
Exactly. There are many things inside us or inside ourselves that we are not tuning. We haven't tuned into those, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Every
One
once
of
in a
my-
while, go ahead, Joe. Who was
Peter.
it? It was
Peter.
Peter. Go ahead,
Oh.
Peter. You've been quiet. Go for it.
What you were just saying there, Steve, about tuning in within. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs, and I'll dig it out in a second and I'll put it in the chat, but he gave a talk at the commencement of a university, and he said something to the effect of, don't let the noise of others drown out your own inner voice or your own inner wisdom, and follow that inner wisdom, because that's where your path is. But in relation to this murmuration and this separation in the world, going back to where this topic started today, I got lost in my own little world for a few minutes on separation while I was listening to you guys. It was a part of my beingness, because my observation of the world is that it appears to me that there are various groups that use divide and conquer extremely well. And whether that's, black against white, Christian against Muslim, whatever religion against whatever other religion, vaxxed against unvaxxed, left against right, up against down, whatever. There's a divide and conquer in there, and someone was talking about native tribes and Aboriginal people, and I spent a week with an Aboriginal mate of mine out past Kalgoorlie in the middle of nowhere, and thank God he was a loving man, because if he'd left me there, I was dead in about 4 hours, I think. But one of the things he said to me was, and I'm not quoting him exact because it's 35 years ago, but the essence of it stayed with me. One of the things he said was, everything in the world, every system in the world is designed to make you believe that you are separate. And in reality, you are part of nature, and everyone is part of nature, and everyone is part of Great Spirit. And I think the Malthusian scarcity-based, creating scarcity for artificial richness for some, if we truly came to that space inside of no separation, it's impossible to conceive that we'd allow scarcity and poverty and homelessness, etc., for others. So this motivation, the birds, I was also thinking in there that as one bird moves in a flock, all of the birds respond to that bird moving. As one human moves in our group, our tribe, our collective, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously, every other human responds to that, or it is impacted by that. And my whole being today has been tied up in this. How do we not buy into the separation? How do we do what Steve Jobs said? Don't let the noise of the world, the noise of others, drown out the wisdom of our heart. So that's where I was at. So thank you.
Peter, I just put a comment there. It comes down to mastering rhythm and tempo in the flow.
And also for me, it seems to me that that humans today are so disconnected from their local experience. They're now on the internet worrying about things that have no bearing on their local disposition. I love Jordan Peterson, who says, you want to solve the world's problems, make your bed. You know, if this bird moves, we've got to stop thinking tribally, and we've got to start thinking, we got to stop thinking tribally and separating ourselves. And we just got to function within our own family units. And then humans will be just fine. We have to evolve from tribal, separate points of view into a kind of a global. It's a yin and a yang thing. Because when I focus in on my family, I'm fixing the world. I don't know. I'm thanks for being
only that it is not that we have to. I don't think that it is evolved in that sense. I think it is the end. We have to be tribal and global. Tribal and global. Because you have the diversity and the patterns, but at the same time, global.
That's
all is rhythm, all is tempo. When is it that the tribal has to be like this? And for what? When is it that it has to be global, understanding, comprehensive for all? Okay, can we maybe
I just want to say that I'm going to change this because I tried to be clear about inness and outness in terms of universal. And I think I'm going to add universal out, universal out, universal out. I'm going to add universal in and local in. And I'm going to make the seventh direction self-awareness be red. And out here, I'm going to put in black other awareness, because it's self-awareness when I tune into my inner self, and then it's other awareness when I begin acting, when I begin like a bird and start acting with murmuration. So I just thought I'd tell you guys, thank you for allowing me to share this diagram. I'm going to improve it. Okay.
Very good. All right. And to you.
Okay. 100.011. Awareness is the otherness saying to the observer, see me. Awareness is the observer saying to self, I see the otherness. Otherness induces awareness of self. Awareness is always otherness inductive. The total complex of otherness is the environment.
Comments, questions? Julian, I see you really looking at that. What are you seeing? There's your environment word, right?
But he's looking and smiling. It means he understands.
Yeah, is that I remember how you made the analogy of a point being an awareness. So when you see a point, is like you're conscious, or you are comprehending which part is that point. And now that you see the otherness, so if you see a point out there, if you see a point out there, you start to be conscious of what is happening out. So the environment will be all of the points around me. So that's the relationship that I'm building, my family, my friends, my colleagues, all of the people that I'm relating with. Those are different points, and that's another awareness. So,
Let's take this experience that repeats thousands of times every day throughout planet Earth. It is birth. When the baby tunes out, when the baby comes out, first thing he cries, this is me. He's telling his environment, he or she telling the environment, here I am. Because before, the only awareness that it had was part of the awareness of the mother, part of a mother. But what we call our date of birth is that time at which we come out, and hopefully we cry first. We say, here I am, here is me, right?
right. You know something? I remember that when I read here, awareness, otherness induces awareness of self. That reminds me that many times when I had to struggle with things that I cannot control outside, or that I feel that I cannot control, I did found that sometimes when you see inside yourself and you try to change that thing inside yourself, you end up making changes outside of you that you kind of end up figuring out that. So I see that relationship really strong, you know, like if I want to make a change outside there, I need to change myself first. And having that relationship going on, it's something that I have been find it's really powerful, you know. So I think when everyone sees us, it makes us important, and when we are able to see others, it makes them important. Ignoring someone, it's always harmful. For instance, ignoring a kid's opinion, for instance, it's also harmful. So I see this relationship all the time.
Yes, Julian, that symbiotic or that always coexisting is really going to be very clarified in the following of a text that Anne is going to read now. So Anne, please continue.
No, I think that your quote with tuning into the octahedral brings equanimity. Actually, that makes sense with what Julian had just said. And if you're mastering rhythm and tempo within that process.
Is that Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, no, that's what so the equanimity comes from the process that actually Julian had just explained. And that's the same thing that Manu was talking about a little bit earlier. So tuning into ourselves is allowing us to actually tune into others.
And isn't tuning into myself allows me to tune into others.
Correct.
And isn't it true? The more that I tune into myself and understand myself and how I work, the more I actually understand others.
Right. It's a symbiotic relationship that
it is.
So that
go ahead.
No. It makes perfect sense, and it actually plays out with just the way modern psychology works.
Okay.
Can you explain again the equanimity? Because the other day I was trying to explain that concept to some kids that had no idea about that word, and I haven't seen that relationship. So I remember, let me try to remember, I try to explain them equanimity of something when you try to see something with equanimity, it means that you don't judge that thing that you're looking into, and you're trying to be kind without predisposition. You try to forget about all of the previous predisposition that you had, and you try to be equanimal with what you're seeing, equanimous with what you're seeing. So
you're not forgetting. You are just keeping bias under control, and you are open. So you are in an open position.
Exactly.
Having kept under control for a while your biases, your proclivities. That's what equanimity means.
Keeping under control your biases.
Your proclivities, your biases.
Yeah, I resist the idea of control with equanimity. It's more of an alignment. It's more of an equilibrium. It's more of equanimity is more not seeking, not avoiding, right? It's being in equilibrium, being in alignment. I can be judgmental. I can have discernment, and I want to have equilibrium, neither seeking or avoiding.
But you can distinguish between facts and opinions within this framework. That's a very important point towards equanimity as well. You're tuned in to what the facts are, and then what your opinions and judgments are. You can make a judgment, but you're tuned in. That's my understanding, right?
But one example that can illustrate that nicely is the way in oil research at sea, or oceanographers or whoever, that the way you kind of record data. What do? You live like a sphere on the surface of water that is anchored somewhere. And it'll be tossed left, right, up, down. And it has all the sensors. It's going to be registering, recording data, all data, because you are not, it is as opposed to stay on a boat, and then being aware, having somebody that is kind of on a screen and making the effort to that. When you take that recorder later, you got all the information that you needed. The recorder in its position was in equanimity. It just recorded information, playing the game of the dynamic of a sea surface. This is quite physical, but it quite represents, what goes on in terms of being in that state. And it's very difficult to be. It doesn't come easily. It comes with training, a lot of training.
Right. Sure. That's a great explanation. Thank you, man. Thank you a lot. Thank you, everyone, because everyone gave a very good explanation.
Thank you. And up to you, please.
Okay. 264.02. At minimum, life involves awareness, self involves otherness, and otherness involves somethingness. Awareness is of otherness, awareness of the outside superficiality of the observer's finger by the externality searching optical system of the observer. Indeed, the externality searching for the nipple of its mother's breast by the olfactorily guided external nose-mouth of the newborn constitutes initial otherness awareness. As a fertilized ovum of an integrally evolving female organism, umbilically circuited with a female organism, no otherness awareness is involved except that of the mother, even as she may be sensorially aware of a sore spot on her arm.
Continue on 26403, please.
Okay, 264.03. Otherness involves somethingness. This brings us to the consideration of the nature of the epistemographic evolution of experience that, at one historical moment, evolved the misconceptioning of a nothingness, ergo, dimensionless point.
Okay. Comment and question.
I really was amazed at how Bucky took this thing involving a female organism umbilically connected with this infant or newborn or something. There's no otherness awareness is involved except that of the mother, even as she may be sensorially aware of a sore spot on her arm. I mean, Bucky is really just saying, look, human sensorial experience is just what it is. It's human sensorial experience. And it's the basis of everything that I do. This idea of, go ahead.
What he's saying also is that the fertilized ovum is not yet born. It's not yet a me.
Yeah.
It's part of the mother. And it comes back to what we say, the me and the otherness of the ovum comes when it comes out and cries. Here I am.
A fertilized.
So it is life existed. He existed. There was life. But for him, for us, in terms of what we've been saying, initially the universe was the mother and the fertilized egg, if that's the object of our study. Then subsequently, it is divided into the mother, the baby, and the otherness, the environment in which they are.
And so there, go ahead.
Yes. And there will be the otherness of that tree into some other otherness to form the universe, the local universe in which they are. And that's how complex. It has started simple and it gets complex and more complex. Complex means many, many parts interacting non-ceasingly.
So he's making three statements here. Awareness is of otherness. And he talks about this outside superficiality of the observer's finger. He's speaking metaphorically, the finger that points to the externality that is observed through the optical system. That's the first metaphor. Then he says, awareness is also an infant searching for the nipple of its mother's breast. And that it's just like having a finger pointing to some externality. I'm searching for a boob. And I become other aware. If I was not aware of other before then, I became aware of other at that point. And then he gives a third example, and this is going even before birth to a fertilized ovum being compared to a sore spot on the arm. You know, it's wow.
I think is a repeat. That is Bucky's method. I will repeat and repeat on the different angles, on the different variations until you understand. And that's what he's doing.
Beautiful.
Okay, let's just, Steve, just progress a little bit and then we'll see if.
I wanted to emphasize that all of that begins with minimum. So all
Yeah.
of that Steve has read, it begins with at minimum. So it's something, it's the base, it's another structure, is another minimum system for Bucky, you know, like there's these things that we should consider are the base for everything else that comes after that. So that's why
Yeah.
awareness becomes complex and complex and complex. That's why
Yeah.
otherness became complex and more complex, and somethingness also becomes more complex and more complex.
Julian, it's actually an axiom. You know what an axiom is?
No,
A what?
Axiom.
an
AX.
axiom. Ah, yeah.
Yes.
I think
And
it's
Becky
also,
said,
okay,
yeah,
go
it
ahead.
states it goes on, it says life start with awareness.
I think these are three dualities here. At minimum, life, awareness. It can't happen any other way. Self, otherness. There's your second duality. Can't happen any other way. If there's no otherness, then there's no awareness of self. And then otherness involves somethingness.
Yes.
So there,
All of those are axioms. Axioms, like a yin and yang. It is something that is so overwhelmingly true that we have to take it as accepted.
if I'm not aware, am I
So-
alive?
Well, and all these
No,
are
you're not alive in the sense of the dynamics of thinking if you're not aware.
Yeah. Joe?
You can't participate in the system.
so all these axioms though allow us to tune in faster and faster, correct?
No, the axiom is a fundamental that is,
Okay.
you know, is a fundamental that is.
And if you apply what is, then if I apply what is, then I tune in faster and faster.
Right. Right.
If I deny what is, I'm going to be living in my own little world. I'm going to continue to live my own little world.
Well, you won't be, yeah, you won't have equanimity, that's for sure.
All right.
Okay. It is self-evident that. That's an action. When you say so, it is self-evident.
Okay.
Like the Martin Luther King say, every human being is born with a self-evident, you know, aspiration to be free. Okay, let's go. Okay, Steve, let's just get to the continue, Steve. Scroll.
I did. We're
Okay.
at, we're at 264.03.
Okay, so let's end with this one. And just read this 2603 to 26412.
Okay. Otherness involves somethingness. This brings us to the consideration of the nature of the epistemographic evolution of experience that at one historical moment evolved the misconceptioning of a nothingness, ergo dimensionless point. 26410, prime otherness.
Okay.
Yes, you just read all of that, and then we'll devote some minutes to discuss it, and then we'll conclude. We'll end.
All right. Single and plural otherness. 26411, while environment plus me equals universe, universe minus me does not equal environment. 26412, environment does not exist without me. I, the observer, am the living human experience. Life is the present experience. Experience begins with awareness. No otherness, no awareness.
Cool. Yes. Comments, questions?
That's probably the most clear statement that I've ever seen him write. Serious.
And one, again, just completely the opposite of the most clear statement. Who has ever heard of epistemographic? I've heard of epistemology,
You know,
but what is epistemographology? Go
that
ahead.
was my first question. That was going to be the first question.
My dictionary doesn't have a definition of it at all
And so,
when I typed it into Google.
yeah, he made up the word, didn't he?
Yeah.
But we can decompose, we can apply his method.
It goes
What
back.
else?
It could be a knowledge mapped. Is it knowledge mapped?
Yes.
and then
It's-
graphic.
It's a knowledge mapped. It's a knowledge map
Okay.
of patterns, right?
Yeah,
or
he's
did-
back to topography.
Right.
He's back to physical space. He's back to the non-conceptual universe. Right? The opening statement was we have a conceptual universe, then we have a non-conceptual universe that's comprised of what? What is the non-conceptual universe comprised of? Anybody remember?
Human
What?
experience.
Yes, Anne. Perfect. We can go back up to it. It's the aggregate of all human experience.
Okay. But let's go down again, please. To where we were, Steve?
Right there.
Yes. Can you explain to me how the environment, where is it again? Environment plus me equal universe? And that is different from universe minus me.
There's not
Can we-
equal environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we comment around that?
So what, well, environment plus me equals universe. So that's me and the otherness. The universe minus me does not equal environment. Hang on, let me think about that really quick.
Well, when we get to it next week, we'll talk about environment.
But I can comment on it quickly. It goes to the heart of what Steve just said. The aggregate of all universe, of all human experiences, is that environment plus me participate in experience. While universe minus me, universe minus me, there was something that happened in between. That necessarily wasn't me. Just speculative. But is a substance, I think that it's something we start next week with. And on this, Julian, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Thank you, Manu. Well, I'm feeling grateful. I'm feeling excited because Stephen Manuel put a lot of effort today to help us understand each and everything. I think even Steve was a step ahead, trying to put out the things that I was going to ask. So he anticipated a lot of times. Thank you for that. What I take away today is that there are so many perspectives and there's so many ways in which you can approach to certain concept, in which you can approach to certain situation, certain problem, that what I think we're trying to do here today was, okay, if we want to take into account what we are seeing, if we want to take into account all of the things that we have in our minds, we have to make a conclusion. And I think Manu and Steve did a good job in that, because we were trying to get into a point in which, okay, are we on the same page right now? Do we understand this point, and do we understand this word? And every time, and I'm sure that we left out many other things up in the text, but we were just moving and moving forward. So I'm really, that's why I'm really excited, and I take away that we can do great and amazing things when we start getting feedback from others. So I'll go with Joe. How do you feel today, and what do you take away?
Hi, Julian, and thank you for your comments. I feel grateful as well. Thank you, Manu and Steve, for putting so much work into this, and sharing your knowledge, specifically, answering any questions that I had. This is starting to come together for me a little bit more than it has in the past. It really is. I mean, it's always made sense to me in bits and pieces, but I'm starting to see things a little bit more holistically. Even I was kind of able to recall some of the past sessions that we had, and if I had enough time just to keep thinking about this more and more, I'm starting to get it, and that is really, really encouraging. And for me personally, so that's, I have a lot of gratitude for that, and just understanding specifically once I was looking at the dualities, and once you look at fourness, and once you understand sixness, it kind of starts to really open up even what Bucky's saying in most instances. So it starts to become a lot more clear. The murmuration graph has made a lot of sense to me, and starting to put just put some of these concepts, not only, they don't even apply to just here, they apply to everything. When we start to think of how tuning in and being able to remove bias, and how that relates to the idea of equanimity or a state of flow and things along those lines, that was, how these all work together. Even, that I like Steve's differentiation between control and then alignment. All these terms are actually starting to really make sense to me, and they're coming to make sense not just here, but within the universe and within where I work, believe it or not. So this is really exciting for me. So I thank you for your patience, and all your hard work. Kelly, how are you feeling? And what are you taking away from today? And thank you for being here.
I have to say that a lot of it went over my head, just because I'm hard pressed to think about things. But I thought it was really good, really good. I thought how Manu described things and how Steve played off each other was very good. And yeah, very good. That's how I feel. That's what I take away. And how do you feel? What do you take away?
Thank you, Kelly. I feel grateful because the discussion today has been so rich. It's one of the richest discussions we've had, I think, in the months that I've joined this group. And that is saying something, because every every meeting we've had, there's so much depth to it and so much to take away. But the beauty of it all was that, you know, I got so much from every single one of you today. Every single one. It's unbelievable. And Kelly got the whole thing started by putting us on this whole trip with the two aspects, you know, that the social being and the economic being. You just got to start it there. And I really would love to. I love it that Manu, you're saying next week we're going to continue with this. Yeah, with the discussion, this discussion on the universe. And I would really love to continue with this. Murmuration, phenomenal. Peter, what you said about you know, the sharing the experience with the Aborigine, yeah, and Julian, what you shared, and you got us going with equanimity. And Joe, you know, I think you got us there, right, from the questions you asked and led to equanimity. And of course, Steve and Manu. It's just absolutely amazing today. Thank you very much. And Peter, how do you feel, and what did you take away today?
Here, Anne. I was jumping between Kelly's "I'm in over my head" and Joe's moments of complete clarity today. So today was a roller coaster for me. I was thinking about the whole conversation while in the last few minutes of the talk, and when Kelly started with, you know, the business identity versus the social identity, I think one of the gifts of the business world, if you are to have some level of what's called success, is successful business people are generalists. They're not the specialist. They're not the one who's solely focused on just the one thing. They're the generalist who can see how the whole can come together, how the sum of the parts can be made whole. So I'm actually grateful from that perspective that I come from the business world, because I do have more of a generalist view than a specialist view, which is for me helpful. I love Stephen's distinction between control and alignment. I think as we grow in vibration and we lift ourselves in consciousness, it actually is about alignment. And that's a segue to that Steve Jobs quote about, you know, don't let the noise of others. And I'm going to say the noise of others could be TV, propaganda, could be social media, could be all the 10,000 million things in our world screaming. Yet every human, when you actually talk to them, I was at a party last night, and, you know, just a small group, and every single person there, just by the person who were invited to the party, their main focus was on how they could make their world better by helping or serving others. And they were sharing about how they were, the joy they had in bringing their unique talents to serve. And I think, you know, that, and going back to that separation thing, for me, today's talk came to a metaphysical point of, yes, we have a lot of tribes and tribalism and separation, and within that we have a lot of programmed judgment and fear and separation. But my feeling is, if we come back to the space of know thyself, you know, the words above the temple in Delphi, the more you know yourself, the more you know others, the more you can serve others. And that collective energy is much more powerful than the separation. So today, even though today was, as Bucky quite often is, you know, I first read Bucky, I don't know, 35 years ago, I think, and my head groaned and I needed an encyclopedia on one side and a biggest dictionary the world ever had on the other side just to try and get through a sentence. But the reason I persisted with Bucky was that I think he saw a vision of the world united. He saw that vision of a world that could work for everyone. And he was, for me, the first person who had articulated that vision. And so even in the things I didn't understand today with Bucky, I understood that at our essence, we are all one and we are connected to each other, and that we can choose to make the world a better place. Steve, how do you feel and what did you take away today, mate?
Wow. I just am really grateful. I'm grateful for a couple of things. I'm grateful that Julian sent those questions out. I've been kind of like getting clear on some of the things, right? Joe and I have had some conversations. Kelly and I've had some conversations. Manu and I have had some conversations. We've had these calls and these calls, and things have been starting to crystallize. And I don't know. In fact, I get really nervous when I start putting down an answer to your question, Julian, because there's a part of me that thinks I know something. But the truth of it is, the more I know, the more I don't know. And the danger here is that I could influence you in the way you think. And you're in charge of that. I think you have your own scenario, you have your own universe, and there's too many gurus in this world. I'm grateful for Kelly, who, I'm grateful that Manu and I could be where we are when Kelly needed a vacation. And Kelly, I'm honored that you have entrusted the calls. And tonight to Manu and I and to the Wednesday group. And when you said you liked the call, it was really emotional for me because you set a really high standard in terms of, you just keep asking the questions. You have your opinion about business, and then you stop and you ask the questions and you have everybody go deep. And that is the way the world needs to work. Everybody is their own scenario. Everybody has their own answers. Look within, Julian, it's there. I look within every day. This is what I see. And in my relationship with you, the otherness, I become more aware of myself. And that's a sacred interrelationship, and I'm honored. So every one of you, golly, it's just so much fun to hear you, Anne, and how you've integrated this in your school. The fact that you're going to have a value proposition for educating kids. I mean, that is so powerful. And you said you're moving 500 students to a new location. Good grief. That's all the lives you're touching. Wow. I'm impressed. You guys all on this call are just miracle people for me. And I'm just totally thrilled and honored to be here and humbled. And, Kelly calls me up every once in a while and kicks my butt. Right. and Manu too. So I'm honored. And I'm honored to be here. Manu, how are you feeling and what's your takeaway today?
I'm really feeling grateful and admirative of the commitment of participant in this group. And make no mistake in that each of us, wherever it acts, is influencing others. I'm really thankful to Kelly to, despite everything, making the point of a commitment and putting in practice of coming here and being here as soon as he could. And it's been regular. I'm thankful that I'm growing. That in the tension of a compression of this exchange, I'm sure I'm growing. I'm really hopeful that with the discussion that we have now, we're going to land on the point and start sliding quite nicely, where there is no confusion between position and what you call velocities. Degrees of dimensions and degrees of freedom. Talking about them without confusion. Dimension has to do, and we dealt with that extensively today, with position. Degrees of freedom have to do with movement. And we are in a universe of sum total of our experiences that are dynamic. And things and thingnesses are always relating and interrelating, aggregating, disaggregating, and doing kind of things. And I'm also thankful to Anne. I mean, really, you enrich this group in terms of your willingness to really take things here and go and test them really on the field and give us feedback. Thank you all. I hope that before we take a break for the end of Christmas and end of year, that we have landed onto a more clarity and more understanding and progress. Otherwise, thank you all. See you all next. We landed almost on time. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have-
everyone.
Everyone
Thank
stay
you.
safe.
Thank you, Steve.
There you guys.
Bye-bye.